body on it. So, and I get a coincidence. I'm gonna start playing it now because I was thinking about my Xbox today. I was like, I need to get on it and start playing it a little bit again because, sooner or later, Grand Theft Auto 3 is gonna come out. I mean, with Grand Theft GTA about to come out 6. And that's why it took me so long, but I gotta build up my ship. You know how long it took me to build up my my businesses and everything in GTA. But now I know at least 2 people playing it. I'm gonna go ahead and get back on it when I got some time. Tomorrow, Wednesday, the only thing I have planned for Wednesday is to do some editing because TikTok won't let me. I'll get on the game tomorrow, bro. All right, family. Let's start with our bowl again. We're on the crown chakra. The element for that is your thought. Thoughts manifest into reality every day. And then the color for that is violet. So if you're trying to get a little light therapy in your session, make sure you have violet light to support you. And the black amethyst, and then these white crystals. The white ones and the clear ones are pretty good for thought. These are for all your chakras, but focus on that. You know what I mean? As long as you tell me what some of the broken imperial English means. Because I know, every language is, regional dialect on how it sounds. You know what I mean? So, all right, family, we're going to start with the bowl. It's funny, another of the soul family has started therapy. And you know how we do the, 4-7-8 breathing exercise. They were like, that's the exact same exercise that their therapist told them to do. And they were like, well, he actually doing that. So listen, I don't be making this stuff up. It really be researched. If you know me, you know I ain't going to say anything unless I've researched it myself. And if I don't know enough about it, I'll tell you I don't know enough about it. So you understand the limitations of what I'm telling you. But like I said, I'm glad you can be a part of the family as much as you like now. You know what I mean? That's the bowl. We're going to do Okay. Listen, I try to bro, I'm gonna give it another try. So if you see me, I'm on Xbox. It's Master Peanut Kills. Master PNUT. Peanut. So it's Master PNUT KILLZ. But I'm definitely gonna play for you. So I'm glad that we having this. We're gonna do the 4-4-4 breathing exercise. before I get into thought and visualization. So if you don't remember the 4-4-4 breathing exercise, is you breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, and please do. Yeah, that's why I say as much as you can and as much as you allow. You got, at least now you got the opportunity. You know what I mean? You didn't have it before Liberty. So, work schedule wouldn't allow you to be here at all for a while. So, blessings. Yeah, you definitely got a good job at that. You're a funny guy. I appreciate you. You just say some of the most ironic things. That's how I know we are spiritually cut from the same cloth. Because you wind up saying some of the most random things that really speak directly to me. You know what I mean? Because Sea of Thieves, no one in this world outside of my homeboy sister even knows I have that game on there. You know what I mean? And you brought it up out the blue. I don't even think you were sure that I was on that game, but I actually am. So it is funny. It is funny. So 4-4-4. Yeah, let's do the breathing. I'm trying to go with the vibe, and the vibe, we just kind of talking and laughing right there. It definitely is. I definitely believe in fate. You know what I mean? Yeah. Even last night we started talking about Monday night. We started talking about the definition of faith and what faith actually is, and it basically is, faith is the destination, and hope is how you get there. Hope is the destination, and faith is the path to get there. So for 4-4-4, we're gonna do it 3 times. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out on my count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. All right. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. Last time, family. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 4, 2, 3, 4. Release 4, 2, 3, 4. So we're working on the crown, and it's funny because I wanted to do a new activity with you all that we're doing in men's group. But it kind of ties into thought, right? And I think I mentioned it to you all before, so we're going to mind our thoughts and keep this in mind. So we are doing this activity where we say, I deserve. And we say to each other and to ourselves something that we deserve. And to be able to actually articulate what you deserve, you definitely need to utilize your crown and your thought process, because speaking what you deserve into existence can create a sort of conflict of you sometimes. You may not be used to that. For me, I was one of those people who was not used to saying I deserve, because I was one of those people who were under the impression and under the thought process. I even said it to you all that you don't get what you deserve. You get what you work for. But one of the brothers, we were watching the video last night before the show, and it reminded with me, some of the things that we get are our birthright. It was destined for us before we were even here. So now, once you understand that some of this stuff that you deserve came as your birthright, the people who came before you laid the foundation for you to have these things, these opportunities, this life that you want, this healthy living life that you need for yourself. So as you think of this, I deserve, think about what you deserve from the work that you put in. Mind and clear your hearts of all the thoughts of the day. I know it's right around happy hour and the end of work for a lot of us, so we still got the stresses and relations of those energies from the day. But I want you to find yourself a eyes closed, but I want you to take time and think. Now, when you have this, I deserve health. I deserve love. I deserve to feel. You have to put the power behind the words, and the power is and add to your list. I deserve abundance. I deserve fortune. I deserve everything I've worked for and everything that was promised to me before I was born. And as you sit comfortably in the energy and acknowledging the things that you deserve, I am divine, I am at peace, and welcome faith. I'm divine. I'm connected to the universe. Wrap that up with, I deserve the best version of me. Right. So I do think that I deserve activity is in the growth of the soul family for us to start commanding the universe to give us what we deserve. Laughing at that because me and my relationship with cats have gone full circle. I went from liking them to not liking them to liking them again. So I did want to talk to you all about the deserve, but I think, like I said, it kind of just perfectly set up with our vision environment right here, right? With the soul family. One of the funny things that one of the synchronicities in life is that some of the soul family, and how that happens, because we have consciously created a therapeutic environment. And although it may not seem like it, a lot of the things that we do together are therapeutic and to heal. You got to understand, I'm coming, although I may not have the certifications, because my career path wasn't necessarily to be a therapist. My career path was to be a leader in organizations. I still had to do a bunch of therapy. Like, for example, perfect example, in the men's group meeting last night, I told them how that is. I do triple. Once you start keeping journal, the pattern will emerge. You will see if it's a certain time, if it's certain colors, certain smells, certain anything that may trigger certain emotions, right? So a lot of the things that we do come from a therapeutic background. I've been since I was a kid, since I was a kid helping other kids. So it was a conscious effort for me to develop skills that would be therapeutic to our family, our people. Man, listen, I gotta work on my seer. We gotta work on our bot again. When they putting these weird symbols and stuff. It is a therapeutic background that we all are cultivating with therapeutic energy and energy of healing. You all come to help shape this. So when you go to therapy, some of the things that we discuss here, you will discuss in therapy. Or don't be afraid to make that crossover, because they are part of your tribe, right? And then discuss some of the things that we talked about, or you heard me say, ask a therapist. See what they think about it, because you're telling them things about your life that I may not necessarily know, and they can be able to help you see if what I'm saying is resonates with your life, connects with your life in a functional way, right? Now, if you want to talk to me, that's a one-on-one these that we do, the breathing exercise. When we wrote our meaningful words, all of this stuff is therapeutic activities for us to learn the tools to help us heal ourselves, right? Right. So I appreciate you all and I value you all for helping cultivate this energy where people are being in therapy and it doesn't even feel like it. You learn so much. We talk about so much. We laugh, we joke. Only thing we haven't done yet as a group is cry. But we done been close to it a couple of times, you dig? Oh no, never mind. Scratch. We have cried. We've had, listen, in them first shows, people used to cry all the time during them energy readings. Good times, good times, good times, right? Then the other thing that I want to discuss is you really have to be open and aware to this energy, right? Because you find a tribe or people cut from the same cloth, or people who can resonate with your experience, or people who directly experience the same thing as you in some of the weirdest ways. And I say that because today I connected with a new tribe that I didn't know existed, right? So I'm one of those people who I write with my right hand, right? But when I hold my pencil, I'm gonna see if y'all can tell, I hold my pen in my right hand like I'm left-handed. Because when I was a kid and I wanted to write with my left hand, they used to whoop kids for writing with their left hands in school. They'll beat your knuckles with rulers. And if you did it enough, I've lived in places where they had a paddle room. They'll take you in the back. So I mentioned this, a meme showed up in the group and the discussion started. And I said that I used to get my knuckles smashed for writing with my left hand. And then a whole bunch of people came up under there and were like, me too, me too, me too, me too. So much so I made a post on my personal page. And there's still people saying me too, me too, me too, right? And it's ironic because for so long, I've lived so many different places, so many different states, that I felt like it was my experience. So if I experienced this in Montana, nobody I meet in North Carolina went to school in Montana. You dig? Nobody I meet in New York went to school in Montana. Nobody I meet in Georgia went to school in Montana. And I do travel around, but nobody went to school in these places. So I felt as though that was my experience. Maybe I'm missing it. You know what I mean? Even when I talked about kids getting paddled in school, that happened when I was living in Fayetteville, North Carolina in the first grade. People like that, I don't know about that. So, and it was easy for me to accept because I have learned that some of my experiences that I experienced were very much regional. And if you didn't live in that region, you don't know. So like during the crack era, me and my friend was talking about it. I literally had the New Jack City experience. That was a real life experience. But many people didn't have that experience, right? So I say all of this to say is it was very cathartic, yeah, for me to be able to find a tribe in one of the most unlikeliest places. People who understand what I went through, people who can relate. So now I don't feel so necessarily alone, and it makes it easier to dissipate that energy because everybody told a different story on how they've learned to navigate life with that experience. You know what I mean? So now they do more with their left hand. They do this, they do that. And it was crazy because I still find myself at points reminding myself about left hand. I got a homeboy who's left-handed, and he still won't give you no left hand dap. How society teaches us wildest things, right? But as you're open, you will find people who resonate with you in some of the. I did see the best viewers on that weird site. I wanted to put .listen. I'm gonna make .com. I'm gonna make all of them words because I think he got on here one time and did that thing. But I'm about to make them all bannable word, so he gonna have to figure out another thing to be able to do. Yeah, .com. Done, son. They harass you all the time, Masir, and you don't even do anything crazy like this. But ultimately, remain open, because your tribe, the connections you need to make to survive, the connections you need to make to thrive are out there for you, right? Justin, good to see you again, bro. Listen, man, we had a great meeting last night. I appreciate you joining. I appreciate you showing up when you can. You a valuable part of the system, brother. You know what I mean? So sum up last week, behaviors are patterns that become so accepted. This normalized dysfunction a lot of time happens because we mislabel it, right? So like you remember when I talked about me experiencing anemia, and that anemia has symptoms that's very similar to depression. So whenever my anemia would be affecting me, I would be addressing my depression. You know what I mean? And so many people are mislabeling what they experience that they're not feeding themselves the proper medicine. But normalized dysfunction is unhealthy behaviors or patterns that become so a culture or your individual life, right? So how does it happen? Ultimately, cultural acceptance. One, and that shows up in a multitude of ways. For example, how we've been discussing writing with your right hand. It was accepted at a period to beat kids, knuckles, bottoms, all that stuff, to force them to write with their right hand. Like that was the biggest concern of the school system at one point, that these kids is writing with their left hand. Unbelievable. We got to stop that. So that is a normalized dysfunction, right? Cultural acceptance, media representation. Media does a fantastic job at doing that. They will make the face of the problem, the victims of the problem, the face of the problem. You hear me? So, like when we think about things such as crime, they make certain cultures the face of crime. But when you start doing the math, crime ain't that different between cultures, right? It's just different on who actually goes to jail for it longer. So media representation, how the media actually makes you look in print and film and all in video, all those things. This is one of the reasons why people are pushing so hard to be able to have someone that looks like them, representation in the art that we consume, whether it be digital, whether it be print, whether it be video, right? Hey, Tatiana. So glad that you finally said something. You on Facebox this time. I'm glad you crossed over because I know you love TikTok. But TikTok give me a hard time. TikTok want me to use their app to do that, to do the lives, and I ain't doing that. And I think they might be on some 1,000 follower thing again, so they just give me a hard time, which is ironic because now the new feature on my streaming stuff is TikTok stuff. Their comments can now show on screen too. But we're not gonna worry about that. But glad to have you here, Tatiana, as always. So, social influence can help normalize this dysfunction. Social media is perfect for that. We wind up having so many conversations about 50-50, the role of a man and a woman, twerking at brunch. Social media influences people, right? And they don't recognize that they develop their own tools along the way. Systemic education. I don't mean school system education. I mean simply the knowledge. Simply the knowledge. They don't know any other way to address these things, right? And then dysfunction manifests as the other thing that we addressed, and it comes through chronic stress, seen as normal. So many of us are functioning under this level of stress that we think is normal. My career was one thing like that. I talk to recipients, I talk to clients and stuff like that now. And one of the things I help them to realize is it's not normal working 80-hour work that they're not even willing to accept. So don't you buy into it. Unhealthy relationships are tolerance, what we choose. Our experiences in dating and platonic relationships and familiar relationships have an unhealthy vibe or that normalized dysfunction, because again, we're not even aware that some of our dysfunction is, it shows up in as poor self-care, with the last one that we discussed last week. This week we're going to pick up on, I think, emotional suppression. So how normalized, having this conversation lately, healthy behaviors release that emotion in a good way for you. Either you see emotional expression, no, you generally see emotional expression as a weakness. Either you think it is a weakness or you think you express these emotions, and that becomes your normalized dysfunction. One of our favorite, this emotional vulnerability. If you are one of those people who talk about, I said this 1,000 times, there's pool in the dating pool, because you're talking as though you're single for 15 years. So at some point, we have to turn that camera back on ourselves and start looking at ourselves to see, have we normalized some of our dysfunctions? And yes, emotional suppression is a major one. I think I talked about it a little bit last week. I used to think that I had matured in how I processed anger, right? But the way that I matured was actually emotional suppression. So even I said, me and my man talked about it. And one of the ways that I felt as though I grew in how I dealt with anger is now I don't always say what I feel. I see an opportunity to be able to walk away, and I will walk away, right? But I also recognize this, all I do is walk away with that anger. So all I did was just suppress it in that moment. I didn't find a healthy way to release it. So now I'm walking around with it and I'm talking about it to myself at home or weird things right there, right? So some of the things that we think is that we would equate to emotional growth is really emotional suppression, right? So if you notice that when you move on, the emotions are still there with you, it's because you suppressed them, right? Next, you'll wind up have difficulty processing your emotions. And this is a unique one, right? We know, like, having difficulties processing your emotion, it really shows up in two extremes of people, right? In the sense that we have those people who wind up being explosive. They just, wow, you say something to them, they snap out quick. Like, I ain't gonna let nobody talk to me any kind of way. Yes, you hyper vigilant. You need a hug. It's okay. Everybody's not trying to attack you. Everything doesn't have a negative consent. Either you got the people who are explosive or the people who are implosive, who just suppress it, suppress it, suppress it, suppress it. Then one day they just have this random outburst too much for somebody at the grocery store, right? That is difficulty processing your emotions because you're just either throwing them out there too quick with no thought or holding on to them with no thought for yourself, right? And then the other thing that makes it difficult to process the emotions is we aren't always aware of the name of that emotion that we're feeling. Once you start suppressing emotions, they just kind of get convoluted inside of you. So you need somebody to help pull it apart so you'd be able to figure out what emotion you're actually experiencing. One of the stories I think I told you all is about when I was working with children with reactive attachment disorder. And there was this little boy, I used to play pool with him every day. And every day I would dog him out in pool. I ain't take it easy on him because he was a kid, right? So I'm whooping him. Then one day, he beat me. And when he beat me, he ain't know what to do. He just kind of stood there with that I ain't even gonna say crazy look, but he just kind of stood there with a blank stare, like he didn't know what was going on. And I told him, "You know what you feeling?" He said, "What?" "That's success." And he was like, "Wow." Because in his life, he didn't have a lot of experiences with success. And he didn't even know what it was when he felt it. So when you have that difficulty processing the emotions, it's sometimes because you don't even know the name of the emotion that you're feeling, right? So you wind up, this is one of the reasons why therapy or help finding a tribe is beneficial, because they can help you label the things that you are dealing with, right? Another way that it shows up in our lives is through financial stress. A lot of us love retail therapy, right? And it's easy to see when it's the people that are living beyond their means, right? But it's harder to see with people who have this thought process. Financial stress is normal in life. I'm supposed to have a little bit of stress. So they don't recognize how they are living beyond their means. Do you know how many people who, because societal pressures, because of thoughts, their identity being tied to material things, are house poor right now? They bought a house but can't afford to do anything else. So now they just constantly under this financial stress, a normalized dysfunction, right? I remember I was talking to a friend and she recognized that this was an issue that she was dealing with. She was house poor. But you know, the hardest discussion to have with them was, do I let this house go? Yes. Find you something else that's not going to stress you out. But that stress has been normalized. That dysfunction has been normalized. And it was wild because it was normalized in several ways. Sometimes it's normalized in our relationships and people we date, because they always are under financial stress. Now you carry financial stress, right? It also shows up as debt and financial strain. This is the perfect example. Do you know how many people have decided that having college loan debt to the day they die is normal? But that's not normal. It is a fairly new phenomenon. So we are normalizing debt, the financial stress, like I'm supposed to be. You know what I mean? This is just going to be my life, the rest of my life, right? So much so that I even talk to friends that that's one of their main concerns. Like, I don't want to get caught up in debt. Like, no, you're not going to get caught up in debt. As long as you don't use your credit to buy things, you use your credit to pay for things. The difference is you use your credit to pay for things because you got the money and you can pay that back. But when you use your credit to buy things, you ain't got the money. And who knows when you're going to be able to pay it back. But we normalize this. Even the system has put us in position where this stuff will be normalized to us. The educational system, especially at the college level, was notorious for doing this, right? Another way that it shows up in our lives is social isolation. Limited social interaction, right? And accepting that as normal. How we wind up normalizing it is through busy schedules, right? And it's funny because as I was talking to a friend, they brought up a busy schedule and how they're going through it, whatever, with therapy or whatever. And I said, you see why I say that's a red flag. Your schedule is so busy you don't even have time to yourself. That is a normalized dysfunction. The human body needs time to rejuvenate. Jesus would go 40 days and nights on a mountain by himself. And you don't think you're better than him, are you? If your schedule is so busy, I don't care if you are a parent. Because if your schedule is so busy and you're a parent, you have literally made being a parent your identity. You forgot that you're a woman. You forgot that you're a child. You forgot that you are anything else you wanted to be or anything else the universe and God intended you to be, right? The other way that people like to normalize that social isolation is saying that they're doing it for healing, to protect their peace. If you don't know how to pick peaceful situations for yourself, jumping out the game is not healing. That is social isolation. You are literally normalizing a dysfunction. And God forbid if you're doing this and you do have children, because now you're just making them emotionally responsible for you. And they shouldn't have that. You're giving them that thing that we talked about earlier. Premature maturity. Now they got adult responsibilities when their only thought process need to be, how many chicken nuggets are they going to eat tonight? Listen, I'm sorry. I got to say this story, and they probably knew I was going to say it. I said that because that's a true example. I was talking to one of my friends, and they were riding with their child, and their child was like, how many chicken nuggets is this? And I love that story because that child had confidence and knew the exact words to be able to convey their feelings. And what was even better is how the parent responded. They had a conversation with the child instead of, who are you to ask me, right? So social isolation, it also shows up with social isolation is difficulty forming connections. Some of those people who saying that they are protecting their peace, it's because they have difficulty forming connections. They don't even trust themselves to be able to pick the appropriate connections because they're not aware. They have the lack of knowledge. For example, like the conversation me and Masir had earlier. I can tell that we cut from the same cloth because sometimes he'll say random things in my life that nobody knows is a part of my life. That's one of the signs that you're supposed to feel a little more comfortable, a little safer to put your guards down. There are kind of things that just let you know it was meant to be connected. But if you take yourself out of this process of life, you're not forming the healthy connections that make life enjoyable, right? Even if you call it to protect your peace, because you're not protecting your peace. You're just living in solitude. And again, if you have kids and you're saying you're not in the world because you're protecting your peace, you are inadvertently making your children responsible for your lack of emotional awareness, right? And you know children, they can pick up, they like wild animals when it comes to that. They don't have all the skills that we have to be able to communicate our thoughts. So some of the skills that they master as children is manipulation and awareness of adult emotions, because how an adult feels can really affect the kind of day that child has. Even when you as an adult think you're hiding the emotions. Do you know how many times I talk to people and they talk about how they keep that away from their children? And it's impossible. It is affecting every aspect of your life. How do you think that your children are absolved of that? The sins of the father always fall on the child, right? So difficulty in forming connections with people. Hey, good. The last way normalized dysfunction manifests in our lives is through our coping mechanisms. How do we deal with the ups and downs that life gives us? One of the wildest and most important questions that I've ever gotten, or statements that I've ever heard, and I'm still, processing this and still working on this thought process, is how you celebrate cannot be the same way as you cope. And I sat there and I thought for a long time, there's many things, or many times that I cope the exact way that I celebrate. Many of us do that. For example, when we had a rough day, Many of us would like a drink to end the day. But also, when we had a great day, many of us want a drink to end a great day too. Literally, that is a normalized dysfunction. We're coping and celebrating with the same skills. That means we have not allowed ourselves to experience the vast emotions that we feel inside. We boxed ourselves into a box, right? This is easily known when we say substance abuse. So we know the normalized dysfunction and a terrible coping mechanism is through substance abuse and illegal. Because legal always recognize how our unhealthy behaviors are also terrible coping mechanisms. Many of us, when we're stressed, we undereat. All of us. I've been asking people who scroll. Excessive screen time is a bad coping mechanism. Many of us, like I talked about it, we even call it retail therapy. Many of us use shopping to make us feel better, which ties back into that financial stress. We are normalizing the dysfunction, right? Normalizing the dysfunction and how it manifests. But now we got a and if we were reading, I would probably stop right now because this would be the perfect time to stop. No, okay, fantastic. So now we will finish this section and then move on because I'm not going to give you coping mechanisms. So we talked about all these normalized dysfunction. We talked about our loss of innocence. We talked about how it manifests in our lives, right? But I also want to be able to take time and discuss how it affects us spiritually, right? Which is one of the main things that we're trying to hear. We talked about it in the men's group. My man put it a perfect way. He said we got 4 bodies. How does this affect your spiritual body? And please do not ever disconnect these bodies because your physical body, if it's not in its best function, it affects your emotional body. If one of them out of alignment, they're all out of alignment, right? So how does this affect our spirit? These normalized dysfunctions, these losses of innocence, if we don't get them back, they literally serve as distractions from us doing the inner work, the work on ourselves to become the best versions of who we are, right? It keeps us distracted. It keeps you from engaging in 2 major, right? Introspection and self-improvement. Couple steps to address these growth areas in your life. So it definitely keeps you from being able to focus on your introspection and to work on your powerful and unique as I prepare. Nothing is infinite. It's finite except the possibilities. Energy is not infinite. Up the emotionalizing, working an 80-hour work week effectively keeps you from having the time to become the better version of yourself, right? And that's very important because like I always tell everybody, like you only got 8 pieces of pie of energy. If you're giving all your pieces of pie away to responsibilities and other things, the inner work. Next thing it does, which is amazing, it erodes your values. Most of the time, your normalized dysfunction is in direct conflict with who you are. So think about it. Like I think about I remember my aunt used to always say, she's so soft-hearted. She's so kind-hearted. And which you behave, right? Or the people when you pointed out They argue against, like, no, that's not me at all. No, it is. The dysfunction has eroded your values. You're not even functioning in who you're supposed to be. Maybe you're supposed to be a vulnerable person. Maybe you're supposed to be the light that shows everybody that vulnerability is strength. Maybe you're supposed to be all the time where people have this description of themselves, this vision of themselves, who they think they are, but it's totally opposite of how they behave, right? Erosion of values. Lastly, and before we wrap up tonight, is it creates the emotional turmoil that you are trying to avoid. We think that we are protecting ourselves from my peace. Your tools, iron sharpen iron. You got to get out there and practice to see. You got to grow, work on yourself, see if your discernment is better. You have to do these things. By not participating, you are creating this emotional turmoil. And what most people do once they once their protective wall do not give them the emotional stability that they're looking for, they fall directly onto emotional suppression, which is why we hear, I'm protecting my peace so much. No, you're afraid to actively participate because it makes the assumption that you can't find peaceful relationships out in this world. You can. You just have to participate, right? Okay, fantastic. I think that is a great time to end the show. So next week we'll pick up on the end of that. We will discuss how do we address these things. And I think we will begin our discussion on emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is something I wanted to be, it is a buzzword that we hear a lot about now. But I want to be able to bring it to the soul family, and we have a discussion about emotional intelligence. We have a definition for ourselves, and we create a path and a path for us to be able to develop and sharpen our emotional intelligence, right? So again, I appreciate you all, family. Let me see how this works. It still got that blue 10, but you see what I mean by that fish eye? Boop, boop, boop. I appreciate you all for your time. I appreciate you all for your energy. It's always wonderful to get the soul family together and have time. I look forward to us wrapping up Normalized Dysfunction next week. If you have some time Thursday, make sure to join us for Thursday night. I was about to say Thursday night boot camp, but maybe I need to start doing a boot camp because that's in my mind. But Thursday night book club, where we'll continue reading, how about to say the Celestine Prophecies, but that was a book ago. Makes me want to holler. Makes me want to holler. If you can't make it Thursday, I hope to see you next Tuesday. But if not, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a fantastic weekend. I plan on trying to check out a rock show. Let me clarify. A Stone and Jim and Stone show. When I say rock show, that can give a very different meaning because I don't mean rocks per se. They are rocks. But Stone, Jim, and Stone and Mineral show. How about that? All right. Thank you again. Have a great one, family.